Greetings, my dear viewer. This is a channel about marital infidelity and about the consequences if one spouse starts to cheat on the other. If you, as well as I do, support true family values and condemn cheating, then subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Let's get started. Without warning, the man burst into the home, his voice laced with venom as he hurled an insult. "Hey, you! I'm talking to you," Max spat, his eyes locking onto Elijah. "You're a loser. I'm taking your wife out tonight, and I'll make sure she's satisfied until morning. You can't stop me. She's been putting in a lot of effort and deserves more than what you can offer. Honestly, I'm doing her a favor." Present day. The evening had settled into an uncommon calm, offering Elijah a brief moment of solace. His small apartment, tucked away in a quiet part of the city, had become his refuge over the past few months. Nights of solitary meals and the distant murmur of urban life defined his days, wrapping him in a cocoon of isolation. This was meant to be a time of recovery, a space for introspection after recent upheavals. But instead, Elijah found himself stuck in a relentless cycle, constantly replaying the night that upended everything. That night had started like any other. After a long day at work, Elijah returned home, expecting to unwind with old movie reruns or a dusty book. Then, an unexpected knock shattered the routine. To his shock, Lucy, his wife of 6 years, stood at the door, her expression making his heart skip a beat. It was a look he hadn't seen in a long time, a mix of searching and uncertainty. "Hey," she greeted softly, her voice hesitant. "Can we talk?" Elijah blinked, caught off guard by her presence. Their last interaction had ended in a heated argument, followed by weeks of silence. He hadn't anticipated seeing her again so soon, but something in her demeanor urged him to step aside and let her in. "I wasn't sure if I should come back," Lucy began, avoiding his gaze as she walked inside. "But I need to explain. Everything that's happened, Elijah. I need you to understand." Elijah remained silent, closing the door behind her while his mind raced through a whirlwind of thoughts. What did she want now? After abandoning their shared life, what explanation could she possibly offer? "I've been seeing someone else," she confessed after a long pause, her words cutting through the tension like a blade. "His name is Max. He was there when you weren't. I thought I was making the right decision, but now everything is falling apart. I never wanted to hurt you, Elijah." At the mention of Max, Elijah felt his stomach turn. The nights he had spent wondering about Lucy's growing distance now had a painful clarity. Hearing her admit it was like a punch to the gut. "You think I can just accept this?" Elijah's voice rose, his bitterness barely concealed. He struggled to hold back, the cold fury in his chest overpowering his restraint. "You left me, Lucy. You walked away from everything we built for someone you hardly know." Lucy flinched at his words, but pressed on, her voice quivering. "I never intended for this to happen. But it did, and I can't take it back. I know I've hurt you, but I don't know how to make it right." Elijah shook his head, disbelief etched on his face. "You don't get it, do you?" he whispered. "You chose him over me, and now you want me to just move on? I've been trying to piece my life back together, and now you're here, asking for what? Another chance?" Lucy stood in silence, her eyes filled with regret. For a brief moment, Elijah felt the stirrings of potential forgiveness, but the weight of her betrayal was overwhelming. "I can't do this, Lucy," Elijah said, his voice filled with unexpected finality. "You made your choice. You chose him, and I won't keep fighting for something you threw away." Lucy opened her mouth to speak, but Elijah raised a hand to stop her. "I don't want to hear it. You made your bed, now lie in it." He turned away, leaving her speechless. The room felt stifling, and he needed air, time to process. He wasn't sure how long it was before he heard the door click shut behind her, but when it did, he felt a strange sense of relief. The overwhelming silence of the apartment now felt familiar. Elijah sank into the couch, his eyes fixed on the spot where Lucy had stood. His chest ached, but clarity began to set in. She had betrayed him, and now she was gone. Elijah refused to let this define him. He would not drown in misery and self-pity anymore. He was determined to move forward, ensuring Lucy regretted the day she walked out. His mind whirred with plans, each sharper and more calculated than the last. The first step was to understand Max. Elijah knew he had to uncover Max's weaknesses, to expose any secrets he might be hiding. Max had played a part in this betrayal, and he would face the consequences. Elijah started his investigation, delving into Max's online presence, hunting for any vulnerability. Days passed, and Elijah discovered a small business Max had started a year ago. It was modest, a side project, but it could be a chink in his armor. Elijah made a mental note to dig deeper. His determination grew when he reconnected with Mark, an old college friend and corporate lawyer who could provide the resources and information Elijah needed. "What do you need?" Mark asked over drinks, intrigued by Elijah's intensity. "I need everything on Max's business," Elijah said, leaning in. "Every transaction, every deal. There's got to be something." Mark, impressed by Elijah's resolve, nodded. "I'll see what I can find. But you know this won't be cheap, right?" Elijah's eyes narrowed. "I'll make sure he regrets ever crossing me." Mark chuckled. "All right, let's get to work." Elijah moved with unwavering resolve. "The price is irrelevant," he stated firmly. "I just need them to confront what's inevitable." Each day, his determination deepened. The sting of betrayal had lingered far too long, and his mind was already crafting a meticulous plan for vengeance. Patience was the key. Elijah realized he couldn't rush this. It required careful orchestration, precise timing, and above all, a devastating impact. He was adamant that Lucy and Max would answer for everything: the shattered trust, the humiliation, and the ruin of what they had once created together. As promised, Mark came through, and within a week, Elijah held a folder packed with invaluable details. Max's seemingly benign business was far from innocent. Hidden in its financial records were inconsistencies, dubious investments, and countless shady transactions. It soon became evident that Max's company was more than just a harmless enterprise. It was a front for far darker activities. Maintaining his composure, Elijah stepped aside, allowing her to enter the apartment. He guided her to the table, where they sat in tense silence. Lucy looked uneasy, but Elijah offered no comfort. This wasn't a time for reassurance. It was a time for reckoning. As Lucy's eyes darted around nervously, Elijah slid a folder across the table. She hesitated before opening it, her breath catching as she flipped through the pages, each one revealing Max's impending financial doom. That night, Elijah sat in his apartment, poring over the documents Mark had provided. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from a different kind of thrill. This was the power of knowledge, the power to control. Max and Lucy had no idea what was about to hit them. They had underestimated him, and now they would pay dearly for that mistake. Elijah's phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. It was a message from Lucy. "Elijah, can we talk? I know things aren't perfect, but I need you to understand. Max isn't who I thought he was. I made a mistake. Please hear me out." A bitter smile spread across Elijah's face as he read her words. She was desperate now, wasn't she? She was finally realizing the weight of her choices. She had chosen excitement over stability, passion over trust, and now she was facing the repercussions. But Elijah was no longer a man who would offer forgiveness, not after everything. His response was short. "You made your choice, Lucy. There's nothing left to discuss." A surge of satisfaction coursed through him as he sent the message, but it wasn't enough. The next phase of his plan was still to come. He wanted to see their entire world collapse. First, He made sure Max's business dealings were exposed. He didn't simply hand the evidence to the authorities. No, Elijah wanted Max to squirm, struggling to hold his empire together as it disintegrated. Anonymous tips were sent to various regulatory agencies, including the IRS, unveiling Max's fraudulent activities. Within hours, investigations were underway. Max's accounts were frozen, and legal complaints flooded in. But Elijah didn't stop there. He used his knowledge to strike even harder. A few well-placed calls and emails ensured Max's critical clients were informed of his illicit dealings. The fallout was immediate. Furious investors pulled out, lawsuits loomed, and Max's reputation crumbled. Elijah knew it was only a matter of time before Max's business fell apart completely. As for Lucy, Elijah had an even more ruthless plan in store. She had been so confident when she left him, believing Max's world would be her paradise. Elijah intended for her to feel the full force of the pain and humiliation she had inflicted on him. She would know what it was like to lose everything, to watch her perfect world shatter. Lucy had depended on Max's wealth, accustomed to the luxury he provided. That was about to disappear. With a single phone call, Elijah ensured Lucy's financial security was obliterated. He convinced Max's accountant to leak critical financial documents to the press. Within days, the media descended on Max's business, and the ensuing scandal was unavoidable. Lucy's bank accounts were frozen, her credit cards maxed out, and she had nowhere to turn. Max's penthouse, the one she had so eagerly left Elijah for, was seized by authorities as part of the investigation. Her lavish lifestyle, the car, the designer clothes, was stripped away. But Elijah wasn't done yet. He had one final move, the most satisfying of all. He arranged for Lucy to receive an invitation. A simple dinner, he said, with no hidden agenda, just a chance to reconnect and close their chapter. It was the perfect trap. When she arrived, she would be faced with the harsh reality of her downfall. On the evening of the dinner, Elijah calmly set the table, his heart racing in anticipation, though outwardly he remained composed. Lucy would expect something different. She would expect redemption, but instead, she would encounter the consequences of her actions. When the doorbell rang, Elijah's heart skipped a beat. He opened the door to find Lucy standing there, looking as if she had walked out of a nightmare. Her eyes were red, her once confident posture now slumped in defeat. She hadn't anticipated this. "Elijah," she said softly, her voice heavy with emotion. "I don't know what else to do. I have no one else. Please hear me out. I've lost everything. I was wrong, so wrong." Elijah's voice was low as he responded, "I've been busy. It's amazing what you can uncover when you know the right people." Lucy's face turned pale as she grasped the extent of his actions. "You did this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Elijah nodded, his gaze cold and steady. "Yes, and there's more where that came from. You chose to live in a world of lies and deceit, Lucy. Now you're trapped in it." Her hands shook as she reached for her phone, probably intending to call Max, but Elijah had already anticipated this. Max's lines were monitored, his contacts systematically severed. "You think he'll save you?" Elijah's voice dripped with disdain. "He's gone, Lucy. His empire is collapsing, and you're sinking with it. Everything you thought you had is slipping away." The silence between them grew heavy as Lucy's eyes filled with tears, but Elijah remained unmoved. "I didn't think it would end like this," she stammered. "I never meant for any of this to happen. Elijah, please. I was foolish, blind. Can't we try again? I miss you. I miss us." Elijah leaned back, scrutinizing her face as her regret hung in the air. "No, Lucy. You don't get to come back from this. You made your choice, and now you'll live with the consequences." He stood slowly, walking toward the door. "It's over. It's been over for a long time. Goodbye, Lucy." As Lucy sat trembling, Elijah felt only a strange satisfaction. She had thought she could leave, build a life with Max without facing the fallout. She had underestimated the depth of his pain and his resolve. With a final look at the woman who had once meant everything to him, Elijah left the room, closing the door behind him with a sense of finality. My friend, and this is the end of the story. If you liked this story, then put your royal like and subscribe to the channel. May the force be with you.